spirit of living, reading of literature alive in our community. There's a gentleman in the back who'll be walking around with, taking a video. Shakira wants to splice me into the new video. Bring depth and richness to it. Okay. This book is titled The Mastery Impulse. And the phrase comes from Freud, among others, who Freud uses it a lot, of course, to describe the impulse behind sexuality as he conceived it. I'm more interested in the idea of the imagination as a sort of conceptual eros that is out to devour the world. And with that in mind, but of course it also seeks to devour our own instincts and bring them in line with the passions of the world as the imagination configures them. With that in mind, I split the book into 4 sections. The first one deals with everyday objects or experiences. Well, in reality, I guess the first section of the book comes from my creative writing assignments to my classes. I make them go find objects and write about them and forget what they are and put them through a whole phenomenological experience. And usually around the second or third week of that, my students say, well, let's see you do this. It's hard enough, man, you know. So I have to go out and do things like this, and then they turn into poems. As you can see there, this is how, you know. And then they don't like what I write, so I have to stick it in my books to give it credibility, so I can throw it back at them and say, look, see? See? This, at Miami-Dade Kendall campus, where I've been teaching since 1985, they used to have these wonderful patio tables, all these and they were metal and had white strips on them. And what I liked about it, you could drag them all over the place. Yeah, of course, the plaza looked like a dump, but it was, you could accommodate it. You could create little areas. And one day they took them all out, and we have now these very heavy things that might work as tank traps if we made it. And so we can't move around anymore. But I remember that one day when they were seizing all of these, my patio furniture, and they had it all bunched up in this huge pile. And this is my obituary, if you will, to my wonderful patio furniture that is gone. It's called Entangled White Metal Patio Table Legs and Frames Beneath Concrete Stairs. Urchins without a flesh to guard, bony flower, congress object. No accident in the seeing or in the guessing of wrecked geometries lurching toward living form, like a piece of coral once ripped from the calm of unreflected function. Pure brute of thing, merely clustering into one aberrant image, as if surprise were the single stop in the local shuttle. But the many claws hang onto our desire to say guitar, arteries, mangrove root, to say and make the world ours, through and for the ambush. Gathering is gratitude. Another one of these object poems that emerged from classroom experience. I would give students different things around the campus, usually things like carpet stains or chewing gum stuck on the pavement, and they would try to horse deal with other students. Well, you got the scuff marks, you know, last week. I mean, why don't you give me that socket? I mean, that electric socket has more potential. So one said, well, you should write a poem about an eraser. So, an eraser poem. 6-tiered snow has taken the field for good, hushed its gray felt into memory. But the chalk's winter spread is also the seed, all those words once, now dust packed into its airy tufts of wool, the blanched equation, the errant chore, all here, gene scrambled and waiting for more white molecules to be swept into its flat web. how the grazing fingers smoke the residual ghosts out, furrowed coffin in the teacher's hand, you mirror the making and killing of it all. So, signs finally are like breath, or a lady's vanity blushing against her pages, or shallow ruins, or all those autumn revenues that teach love of what is frail, those fertile city lights, dawn dying white. The second part of Mastery Impulse focuses on love, sex, lust, instinct, and it's titled Teatro Natura, which I have no idea why I gave it that bizarre name. I wanted something that wasn't Latin, but that sounded Latin, so some editor would. It sounds like a Latin, a Roman Latin, not like, Hialeah or whatever, but that it would sound sort of like both. Teatro Natura. And this is set in a hotel on Miami Beach, up around, I don't know, the 70s or 80s, where they have those wonderful islands of sand. Well, they have the sand, of course, and then in the middle they have the flora of the area, and these little bridges, and these little fences, and climb up, and there's these little mini areas of nature, supposedly. And I was taking a certain young lady to that particular place, more interested in other kind of nature, but she wanted to walk on the beach. And she said, "Oh, you gotta write me a poem first." Accountants don't get asked. First, you gotta do my taxes. Dentist has to say, "I've got a cavity. Let's take care of that first." So I said, "Well, later, let's go and, And I wrote the poem, but it was too late to give it to her afterward. She disappeared, which is very talented of her. Anyway, Teatro Natura. A strip of islands cropped in sea grape, grass, and other natures splits the clean-shaven beach like a compass needle. On one side, the motels and condos, and after scaling a little bridge over the tourist desert's Giverny, another spasm of sand, and then, as always, the sea. We walk upon a hardness that skirts these guarding designations where bug and bird gather to their sullen pretense of an open world, all roost and pollen, sleep and nest, and we stop, lined by the fall of moon through wooden slits of the fence that keeps us strangers in a strip of world we keep. We turned, imprisoned between a kiss and a hand fallen madly on a waist, to see how the sweep of snowy grasses curve in brushstrokes against the humid lead of the sky. It is then, I promise you, a poem about this moment, for me alone an instant caught between a caress and the affronting stillness of the sea, lulled in summer droning beneath a scythe of moon, mired in myopic fogs. The only flowerings are those of pampas grass facsimiles, straying ivory across a night cracked by 5 freighters and their lights in the otherwise buried horizon. Later, soon, in the civil hum of the air-conditioned room, we will draw the drapes against this nature, leashed and unfaithful, and fall upon each other like rancid blossoms, who have spent their springtime well, and now, their seed work done, dance away the thickness between branch and ground.